What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel, and lots of stuff going on in the sports world today, and particularly in college football. I'm going to start there. Lots of exciting games today, this Saturday. Michigan, Ohio State, some of those teams earlier in the day. But the game that I want to talk about is the crosstown showdown game between the two Los Angeles teams, the USC Trojans, who came into the game ranked number 7 in the country, and they played their rival UCLA Bruins, the 16th ranked team in the country. And heading into the game, USC was coming off a pretty convincing win over Colorado, who is the worst team in the Pac-12, and UCLA was coming off a pretty crushing loss against Arizona, another team that isn't very good in the Pac-12. And heading into this game, basically everybody thought the same thing. It was going to be a shootout, but we didn't know who was going to win. And as we sit here, the game is over, and the Trojans did pull out the win over UCLA. They beat them 48-45. And really just the story of the game was these two quarterbacks and the offenses, Caleb Williams and Dorian Thompson-Robinson for UCLA. Caleb Williams, sophomore, and DTR, a redshirt, he's a fifth-year senior this year. And really, from the jump, it was a shootout, and nobody was really able to stop anybody. At the beginning of the game, UCLA did go up 14-0 because USC, on their opening drive, got into the red zone and went for it on a 4th and short. They tried to do a Caleb Williams sneak. He didn't get it. UCLA got the ball back, immediately scored, and then on the following drive, Caleb Williams threw an interception, something that he really hasn't been doing all year, just his 3rd interception of the season. And then UCLA got the ball back, and then immediately, right on their first play, after getting the turnover, they go and score the touchdown to make it 14-0. And this is where it kind of starts, USC fans start to get nervous, because this team isn't built to come back from double-digit leads. They want to get out and get leads so that the defense doesn't have too much pressure on them to make stops. USC's defense hasn't been very good this year. They've gotten shredded by multiple teams. They let Cal beat them up. Utah had a field day on them, and Arizona. And in those Utah and Arizona games, they gave up 500 yards of total offense. And UCLA got off to a very great start in this game, but then after that, Caleb Williams started to settle in. He was hitting receivers left and right, and really the story of the game in terms of how he threw the ball was his connection with Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison had been injured for multiple games, and then he comes back and goes for 11 receptions and 178 yards and a touchdown. And it looked like every time Caleb Williams threw him the ball, he was almost wide open on every play, because you can't cover Jordan Addison really. He's really uncoverable, and he was getting whatever he wanted against the UCLA defense. And then another aspect to look at in the game was the rushing attack from USC, because Austin Jones was the star of the backfield, because USC's starting running back, Travis Dye, a guy who has been so good this year and was really the emotional leader for the Trojans throughout the season, lost his season to a leg injury that he suffered in the win over Colorado. And Austin Jones carried the ball 21 times, scored 2 touchdowns, and ran for 120 yards. And then on the other side for the rush, or not on the other side, but also for USC, Caleb Williams was involved in the rushing attack. He went for 33 yards, making some key scrambles, and had a rushing touchdown himself. And then just to touch up on Caleb Williams, he finished the game with 470 yards, 2 passing TDs, and multiple other touchdowns scored on the ground. And he may have made his statement a firm case to be the Heisman Trophy winner this year. There's been a lot of candidates this year. CJ Stroud, Ohio State. Hendon Hooker, was the Tennessee quarterback, was the other guy who was up for the award, but Tennessee got blitzed by South Carolina and Spencer Rattler, who threw 6 touchdowns. Pretty interesting that Lincoln Riley actually used to coach Spencer Rattler. And then if you look at this game for the Bruins, DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, really did all that he could for UCLA, but he really was a key reason why they lost this game, because he had multiple turnovers in the game. He threw 3 interceptions, and he honestly should have 4 interceptions. There was one pass that he threw that could have been a pick 6, but it was dropped by USC. But then the Trojan defense redeemed themselves, because a couple plays later, he got intercepted by Shane Lee before the half. And he also had a fumble at the beginning of the 3rd quarter that was able to get USC the ball really deep into UCLA territory, basically in the red zone, and they went in and scored. And then you also have to give DTR not a break, but you also have to factor in that he did get injured early in the third quarter. He hurt his hand. He threw a pass and it hit the helmet of his hand hit the helmet of one of his offensive linemen. But the Bruins still found a way to score on that drive. A really gutsy performance overall by Dorian Thompson-Robinson, I would say. Even though he did cost his team by making multiple turnovers, he really left it all out there on the field. But the story of this game was Caleb Williams, because when his team was down 14-0 and they needed the offense to sort of get going after that slow start, he was able to sort of galvanize the troops and get them going and getting everyone involved. Jordan Addison, like I said earlier. Mario Williams was pretty quiet, but guys like Kyle Ford stepped up. Taj Washington made some insane catches throughout the game. And now USC just clinched a berth to the Pac-12 championship game. And they're sitting pretty in terms of their chances to make the college football playoff, because if they win out, they're going to finish the season 11-1, which means they're going to be and they win the Pac-12 championship game 12-1. They would be a one-loss conference championship team, who their only loss in the season came against Utah, a game where they also led by double digits, and they only lost by 1 point. And there were some questionable calls throughout that game, so you could argue that USC probably should have won that game too. But it's looking good for the Trojans right now. First place in the Pac-12, clinched a berth to the Pac-12 championship game, beat their crosstown rival. There was just a lot that happened in this game. There's too much to unpack, but really the story is Caleb Williams and the USC offense doing what they needed to do. And the USC defense, even though they allowed 45 points, UCLA's offense is really good. But USC's defense was forcing turnovers, which is what they were good at the beginning of the season, when it looked like maybe the USC defense could be pretty good this year. But they were forcing turnovers. They forced 4 tonight, 3 interceptions off DTR and a fumble. And so that's honestly all they needed to sort of put this game away, forcing turnovers. So you got to give credit where it's due, even though they gave up a lot of points and a lot of yards. Got to give credit to the USC defense for stepping up in such a big game like this on the road. And so let me know your guys' thoughts about USC in the comments below. Do you think they deserve to make the college football playoff? Do you think they will make the college football playoff? And so that's what I wanted to talk about for college football. And the next thing that I want to talk about in this video, I want to switch to the NBA, and I want to talk about Giannis, because last night, Friday night, I'm recording this video Saturday night, so the Bucks lost to the Sixers 110-102 Friday night. I don't want to talk about what happened in the game, because it was a pretty standard game. Joel Embiid went off, shorthanded Sixers got the win, Bucks struggled, Giannis played okay. He did shoot bad from the free throw line, which is something in the game that's relevant to what I'm going to talk about right now, to what happened after the game, which was Giannis was shooting free throws after the game because he shot 4 of 15 from the line. Absolutely awful. He was shooting practice free throws after the game, and basically what happened was Montrezl Harrell, Sixers backup center, was still on the court and didn't appreciate Giannis shooting free throws on the Sixers home court after the game. So Montrezl Harrell takes the ball. Giannis wants him to give it back. He says no. And so Giannis goes and gets his own basketball, comes back on the court. But when he comes back, he notices that on the side of the basket that he's shooting on, the Wells Fargo employees are bringing the ladder out and trying to take the hoop down. And he's like, "Can you guys move the hoop and let me finish shooting?" And they said no. He asked again. They said no. So he goes and takes the ladder, and he doesn't throw it. People are saying he threw it. He did not throw it. He shoved it, and it fell. And just before I give my opinion on this, he should not have done that. That's really dangerous, and somebody could have gotten hurt. So no matter what side you take on this, I hope we can agree that no matter what, he shouldn't have shoved the ladder like that, because somebody really could have gotten hurt. But don't act like it wasn't provoked. Don't act like he just did it for no reason, because it was certainly provoked, and Montrezl Harrell was in the wrong in that aspect. And so basically, my thoughts on this are, Montrezl Harrell was out of line, disrupting Giannis's post-game routine like that. And if you're Giannis, you just can't put yourself in that position. You can't shove the ladder like that, and because it just looks really bad. And so And like I said before, somebody could have gotten hurt. And if you want to practice free throws after the game, that's fine. And yeah, it was just a really bad situation in general. And this season, Giannis has really struggled from the free throw line. He's down to 62%. And we saw in the playoffs last year, he sort of struggled with it. In the regular season last year, he sort of looked like he was fine after the 2021 playoffs when everyone was counting down on him from the free throw line, just getting in his head. And I honestly think that's what's happening right now, because for a guy who's that good to shoot 4 of 15 from the free throw line and to constantly be working on his free throws, it just doesn't really seem like something that should be plaguing him at this point in his career. It kind of seems like it's just all mental. So let me know what you guys think about the situation with Giannis and the ladder. Do you think he'll get fined for it? Suspended maybe even? I don't think he'll get suspended, nor do I think he deserves it. My final opinion on it is that he shouldn't have tossed the ladder like that. He shouldn't have shoved the ladder like that, because somebody could have gotten hurt. But he didn't do it for no reason. He was definitely provoked by Montrezl Harrell and the Sixers assistant coaching staff, who wouldn't just let him shoot free throws after the game. And another thing after this, it's like people are trying to use this one incident to describe him as somebody who's not humble because he made one bad mistake. And we know Giannis throughout his career, he's not given off this persona, but he's displayed himself to be a really humble guy who has respect for all his opponents, isn't really trying to be friends with them, but respects all his opponents, right? And so he made a mistake after the game, and a person's worst moment in the situation, right? Worst moment shouldn't define who they are. He made one mistake. The camera was on him, and he made a mistake in that point. Do I think he's fake or inauthentic? Definitely not. I think he's just someone who was angry after having a bad performance from the free throw line and a pretty bad performance overall. He hasn't really been playing well over the last few games, so I think that's kind of starting to catch up to him as well. And yeah, nobody's worst moment should define who they are as a character or make you question their character that much to where everything that they've done before, everything positive they've done before, you just forget about that and focus on the one negative thing, and that defines who they are. That's not how life works. So those are my thoughts on the Giannis situation and my thoughts on the USC versus UCLA game. First time talking about college football on here, so that's pretty cool. So let me know what you guys think about both of those things and anything else going on in sports in the comments that you want to talk about. Make sure to find all my content linked in the description, and also make sure to like, share, and subscribe.